I always had the idea of using very wide-angle lenses in a specific kind of camera movement, and so we looked at a variety of films. Some of them period, some of them contemporary, from Zulawski's Possession and Juraj's Herz's Cremator.
That seems interesting. I'll have to check that one out. What the fuck? So, The Cremator's a weird movie. Made in 1969 by Czechoslovak filmmaker Juraj Herz, the film follows Karel Kopferkingel, who no is not one of Santa's elves, as he descends into madness, joins the Nazi Party, converts to Buddhism and actually has delusions that he is Buddha and the Dalai Lama, and murders his son and wife. Pretty standard run-of-the-mill movie. Before we talk about The Cremator, I want to talk about the era of cinema that inspired the film, the Czechoslovak New Wave in the 1960s. After the German occupation of Czechoslovakia during World War II, the country was under restrictive Stalinist control that limited the relatively domestic film industry. All films were expected to follow an orthodox formula that depicted an ideal society rather than actual society and its problems. Typical of the ideologies of socialist realism common in Europe during this era, people were losing interest in film for this reason. Both President Antonin Novotny and his artistic council knew that change was needed to revitalize the industry, but they also knew that loosening up restrictions on film would then invite more criticism of the government. They understood that film was a powerful social and political influence, and this was what made them set such strict policies on what could be portrayed in film in the first place. The people in charge knew that film was a reflection of the filmmaker's emotions and also a communication device to the masses. If there was a movie that showed political and social discourse and strife, what sort of message was that filmmaker trying to convey about the current government and social situation? Nonetheless, policy changes did come with the demand for them, although not easily. President Novotny continued to delay and ban films that were too radical throughout the new wave. The directors that spearheaded the Czechoslovak New Wave didn't want to abolish socialist realism, they just wanted to adapt it. The goal of socialist realism was to mirror real life in art, but to do it in a way that offered an optimistic outlook on society, so it didn't actually always depict the truth. The directors of the New Wave wanted to actually show real society in art. They wanted to show what real life was like, which often included the political struggles between the government and the proletariat. Like the government, New Wave filmmakers knew that film was a powerfully influential medium, and they wanted to show the truth, good or bad, to the people instead of placating them with the same trite stories every time. Instead of using film to convince the people that everything was okay, New Wave filmmakers wanted to influence the audience to form their own opinions and question authority. The focus was on the people, not what the government wanted people to believe. Themes of revolution and rejection of institutions and the dominant ideology was what made the New Wave feel so powerful to the people and so threatening to the government. The Cremator is an interesting product of the New Wave because instead of rejecting the dominant ideology, the protagonist accepts it. Kopferkingel kills his family because of their Jewish heritage and takes a job at a Nazi concentration camp. Juraj Herz, a Holocaust survivor himself, tells a story different than the others of the Czechoslovak New Wave. He doesn't necessarily depict everyday life, because, again, Kopferkingel hallucinates that he's Buddha, but he does still warn the audience against following the dominant ideology just because it is the dominant ideology. Kopferkingel is the protagonist, but he is by no means a hero. He's a cautionary tale of what happens to those that blindly follow authority and regulation in search of power or in the belief that they are doing the right thing by controlling them. Additionally, Kopferkingel is shown going to brothels and drinking alcohol even though he claims to be abstinent and condemns anyone who does otherwise. As he falls deeper into the propaganda for the dominant political party, he's revealed to be more of a hypocrite. And he kills his family for the Third Reich, so he's obviously not the sort of optimistic protagonist that was proved of in most orthodox Czechoslovak films. There are only hints of the ideologies characteristic to the New Wave in The Cremator, but overall the film can be wedged into the film movement because of what the filmmaker is trying to convey to the audience about fascism. There is no revolution depicted on screen, instead the opposite, as Kopferkingel dives deeper into the Nazi Party and its sanity. But by witnessing the protagonist's growing allegiance to the Nazi Party, loss of sight of reality, and betrayal of his family, the audience is left with a sense of defiance towards the dominant political authority. The Cremator isn't the pinnacle of the Czechoslovak New Wave, but it's certainly an interesting entry into the movement. It's important to remember that the new wave in the 1960s wasn't just an era of cinema, but it was an era indicative of social change. It wasn't just about the movies, it was about the people.